So, here we are, 38 games, and the Premier League season is done. And, of course, the three big games today. Man United versus Villa, 2-0 for Man United. Everton beating Newcastle, and Chelsea beating Forest in that race for those Champions League places. That was the main thing that needed to be sorted out. And it did get sorted out, and I understand there's a lot of anger from Aston Villa fans. But I think in this video, there's going to be a lot of two things can be true, and hopefully you'll join me on that journey. If you're okay doing that and you want to do more of that, I'm going to do a video talking about what we learned from the Premier League season, having a look at a tweet I've put out and the things that you feel like you've learned, and if I agree or disagree with them. So if you want to enjoy that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 50k on the More James Allcott channel with me, more. So if you do enjoy it, then do get involved. And I'm going to try my best not to piss anyone off, but it's one of those ones. I think like, Aston Villa got to start there, haven't we? Because when you look at the table, it is just so tight. And it's these things that make me just hate VAR. I'm just never going to like it. I just can't get with it. And it's leading to people, understandably, on Twitter, which you can do because it's throwaway comments, this idea of, of the conspiracies and all this stuff. And I personally just don't buy it. I just don't. Mistakes, though, certainly happen. And, if you go back, another thing I've seen on Twitter when it comes to Aston Villa, if you think of the Sheffield United situation way back when, which kind of kept them in the division, look at the journey they've been on since. That was a mistake. And today, Morgan Rogers gets the ball, and Bayanda does not have his hands on it properly. It is a mistake. And from a technical point of view, because the whistle's been blown, there's nothing they can do about it, even though they know it's wrong. But then we're in this whole world of when do you blow? Do you not blow? Do we I wonder where that heads to. How do you resolve all of that? Where we're sort of moaning about offsides, where people are taking too long to blow the whistle, and people getting injured from that. And then on the other side of it, you've got one, hang on, wait, let it play out. Now, obviously, that referee could have let it play out, let the ball go in the back of net, let that action end, and that's the end of it. And Aston Villa, David Ornstein seems to be saying that they're going to complain. I get that. I just don't think it's obviously not going to change anything. And Aston Villa were actually poor in that game. Martinez obviously getting sent off makes a huge, huge difference. And it's hard. That's gutting, I think, for Villa, because God, I was ready to come on here and go, sorry. Because I thought that they wouldn't be able to get into those Champions League spots. And the reason I thought they couldn't get into those Champions League spots were the games that they had to play. And so for them to win as many of them as they had and to be 1 point away is incredible. Emi Martinez won, by the way. He should have been sent off. And I'm joking slightly here, but Højlund is going away from goal. But if the ref has sent him off for violent conduct because he has literally just munched him, I'm kind of okay with that. Maybe not what you want to hear right now, the Aston Villa fans. But I think it's one where, for Aston Villa, you've got to look at the season as a whole. And yes, utterly frustrating to get so far in the FA Cup, to get so far in the Champions League, and to get so close with this, and it to be partly down to that. We're never going to know what's going to happen. You still would have had to play the rest of the game with 10 men, but obviously you're playing against a Man United side that has struggled to break down teams, struggled to score goals. And of course they did. They won 2-0. And so the other side of that is you go, well, okay, have that goal. It's 2-1. Again, it doesn't work that way, and we'll never know. But this is my thing with VAR, is the game and this idea that, corruption stuff that you see people just chucking out on Twitter. It's because we're expecting everything to be absolutely right, and it is such a subjective game, and that's just gonna continue to occur. I've seen some really good tweets, and I saw Luke speaking about the two sides of it. Is of course you are screaming at that decision, but in the Championship we scream at decisions all the time, and then you kind of got to get on with it. Now again, in the spotlight, and this will happen again, in the spotlight of it's the last game, these points matter, those mistakes just get bigger and 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 bigger. But the mistakes will continue to happen, in my opinion, because we have VAR, because it's such a subjective game. I don't think those mistakes will ever stop. Maybe they can. Maybe it's one where I don't know, maybe that referee just generally, you wholeheartedly play to the end of an action. Maybe that should be happening already. Like, I'll be honest, I don't read all the rules up time and again because it's got to a point where I'm confused. So I just still see the game out the way I want to see it. But if for Aston Villa, I think overall, as I said, I was ready to come on here and apologise because to navigate that many games, that many big games, I think there's so many positives for Villa fans, so many positives. But in that final game, you've just got and the Palace game in the semi-final, you've just got to be so gutted with that. So let me know, Villa fans. It's one where I'm close. It was close between you and Newcastle, obviously, for deserving it. And this is the thing. This is the other thing I wanted to say is you don't get what you deserve in football. You get what you get. And, Forest, a great example there. Forest, for all they've done this season, for all that work, again, there's going to be, there's contrasting opinions here because I think Forest have not been found out a little bit, but when it's come to the crunch of it, that pressure to go and win the games, watching that game, Chelsea overall really, really comfortable, and they deserve credit for that, for stepping up in a big game with a young squad, a squad that's only going to get better, really, and will be emboldened by getting the job done. And I think they have been probably one of the top 4 teams in the league, maybe not the most exciting, but I think the quality is there for all to see. And I think they're just, it's reps, isn't it, for this Chelsea side? But I think in the next 2-3 years, under Maresca or someone else, I think they are going to be a real problem for this league and be battling for those top 2-3 spots. Newcastle have been an absolute joy to watch this season, in my opinion. I've really, really enjoyed watching them, and I'm pleased they're in the Champions League. And that's, you go back to it again, it's fine margins. The fact that, from here in, and this again is why I'm absolutely fine with Villa fans screaming and getting annoyed at me, because I'm just giving you my starting point of I just don't like VAR. I don't want VAR. Because when I understand why you're annoyed, because look, it's 1 point, isn't it? And if you can get even just 1 point, it's yours, because Newcastle couldn't get the job, which shows you how good this league has been. Everton on an incredible run right at the end of the season. No one gets easy points in this league at all. But of those 2 teams, if you think of trying to get in the Champions League, Newcastle weren't able to do it back to back, and then this time getting back into it is absolutely enormous for that football club in terms of their continued progression, keeping that group together, adding to that group as well. And Aston Villa, in terms of having to sell assets, these are the complications that are going to continue to occur with PSR. But overall, I don't think you can dispute that PSR is working to a point. This is a problem, this bottom 3, and that gap in quality maybe into the Championship. How can that be resolved? But I think as nothing gets resolved in just one go, it takes time. So that middle section of the league, I'm happy with that. I think we can all be excited by that anyone can really beat anyone. What's going to be interesting going into the summer is that going to kind of, if you think back to the season Leicester won it, is it one where the big teams are now spooked a bit and are able to go, right, we need to sort this out, and they do. You think of the players linked with with Liverpool, Florian Wirtz, and Arsenal sorting out that striker. Man City aren't going to mess about this year as well. It's going to be interesting to see if this competitive nature of anyone being able to beat anyone will continue next year, or are Bournemouth going to get pillaged? Certain teams are Forest going to get pillaged here. But it's been actually in that last few weeks, in that final day, it's been good actually. Maybe not top to bottom, but that's not always the case. I'm pleased Newcastle are in there. I think Chelsea overall deserve it. Man City, it's interesting, isn't it? You kind of I thought they'd had a disaster. Maybe it wasn't as much of a disaster as you thought. And it shows how much of a disaster is needed for them to get knocked off their perch. So you would imagine they're going to come back with a bit of a bang next year. But for Aston Villa and Forest, heartbreak. And look, you can't, 5's enough, isn't it? 5's a lot of Champions League places. Brighton, what a finish to the season for them as well, by the way. And, that Brighton squad is a squad that's capable of getting that in that 5th spot. Could have done that this year. Actually, I'll be intrigued to know if Brighton fans feel a little bit disappointed this season. But yeah, Villa fans, you've got to be screaming, both at the performance and, the decision, because it's wrong. Simple as that. Right. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you think about your summer and what needs to be sorted out. And let me know what videos you'd like me to do in the coming weeks over the summer. I'd love to know that. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Speak soon.